Good day to you. Today we're going to be talking about Renaissance art, and today we're going to be getting dressed to be a subject for the art piece called Lady with an Ermine by Leonardo da Vinci. So first we're going to start off with this skirt, and I want to talk about how the ermine in the woman's hands are a symbol of purity and nobility. Now that we have it on, I'm going to be talking about the woman in the painting. Her name is Cecilia Gagliarani. She was the mistress of a duke in Milan named Ludovico Sforza. Now we're going to add this scarf to my waist. But now I'm going to be talking about how Renaissance art is important in history. Renaissance art is important in history because it shows how humans expressed themselves and also how they viewed the world. To be exact, Renaissance art also brought new techniques, showed humanism, and created an influence in modern art. A big influence. Next, we're going to add this top. Renaissance art occurred from the 14th century to the 17th century. Next, we're going to be adding puffy sleeves. I added this emerald green puffer as emerald green was a really popular color during the Renaissance for ladies to wear. Renaissance art began in Italy when wealthy patrons in Florence funded artists. This led to a big growth in artistic production. Next, I'm going to be adding this corset top for another layer. Some of the most known artists today actually came from the Renaissance, such as Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael, and Botticelli. They were known to have the biggest influence with their Renaissance art. Now we're going to be adding accessories. First, I'm going to be adding this belt, and I want to talk about how humanism had a big influence in the Renaissance art. Human was a philosophy of the Renaissance art. It valued individualism. So this played a big role in Renaissance art because it focused on human forms and emotion, such as the School of Athens, which is actually a painting that celebrates knowledge, featuring philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. Sorry, I said that wrong, but it was actually Aristotle. Another point I want to talk about is how Renaissance art took inspiration from the ancient Greeks and Roman arts. This included symmetry and idealized beauty. Pieces like Laocoon and his son shows dramatic expression and realistic anatomy, which is something that was brought into the Renaissance. Realism and naturalism were huge in Renaissance art. Artists would represent the human body more accurately and nature more realistically, which is why most of the paintings had nature in the background. In order to do this, they would use light and perspective. Now I'm going to be adding this belt. Now that we've added this belt, I want to talk about how the Renaissance art encouraged observation of the natural world, and instead of pieces being more religious and mythological, paintings during this time were more relatable and human-centered. Next, I'm going to be adding these beads as my necklace. I also want to talk about some ways that Renaissance art is significant today in the modern world. Renaissance art became the foundation of modern art with techniques like perspective, anatomy, and composition. Cultural identity with famous artworks such as the Mona Lisa, which many of you should know, is seen as symbols of human creativity and achievement. Next, we're going to be adding these boots, but I want to talk about this quote. It says, "Art is the most beautiful of all creations. Its true purpose is to express the beauty of life, the world, and the soul." This is a famous quote coming from Leonardo da Vinci, which talks about how he viewed art and how many people found it very important during this time. Museums also preserve Renaissance art, which attracts millions of tourists to places like Florence, Rome, and Paris, which contributes to the cultural tourism and economies. As an example of this, in the Louvre Museum in France that holds the painting called The Marriage of the Virgin, which is very famous today, and Michelangelo's sculptures and works from Florence, this brings people to come to visit these places more. This period of art truly set a new standard in excellence and intellectual depth. This period of art is really important to today because we use it as inspiration, and a lot of the pieces we know that we see a lot hanging in the museums actually come from the Renaissance, which is why I think the Renaissance and Renaissance art is very important. Last but not least, we're going to be adding her headband. Do you think I look like her yet? So that concludes our video, and this is the final outfit. We have the boots, the skirt, the layers, and the headpiece.